Hi friends, welcome to WebChamp. In this video, I'm going to discuss tuples in Python. Okay, so again, it is a data structure like a list. The way we have list in a Python, very similarly, we have tuples in a Python with a very small difference. List is mutable, tuples are immutable. What does mean by this? So if you are familiar with the list, what is list in Python, so you can change the items of list, you can add new items, you can update the existing items, or you can delete the items, meaning you can remove the items from the list. But here you cannot perform that kind of operation with tuple. So once you create the tuple, that will remain same, it will not be modified. You will not be able to change the tuple items. Okay. And here again, it is a data structure. As I said, it allows you to store the collection of items, meaning any type of data you can store as an item of tuple. So characteristics of tuples, if I talk, so it is ordered the way we have stored the data. We have created a tuple in the same order, it will maintain the data. Tuple items supports the indexes, even that is fine. Then tuple items are immutable, meaning cannot be changed. Okay, and you can store the duplicate items also in the tuple, that is not a problem. Now, how to create tuple? Okay, so to create a tuple, we need to use a round bracket. For list, we were using square bracket, but for tuple, we need to use this round bracket, and you can specify these many values, any number of values. Okay, there is no limit for the values, and even any type of value. If I would like to have the name of person here, I will add. Okay, like this, even it support the Boolean type data. There is no problem. Any type of data will be supported that you can maintain in the tuple. Now, if you go and if you check the type of this t variable, so it will return the type of t, meaning what type of data it is. And this, since this is the data structure of Python, again it will return this is as a tuple. Okay, now let's go and run the script. So I'm going to open the command prompt for this folder. Okay. And what you can do, you can simply say py. And what is the name of Python file? So if I say py underscore tuple dot py, and let's hit the enter button. So it says, okay, it is a class tuple, meaning it is of type tuple, right? So this is, in this way we can create the tuple. Now let's say if you want to create the tuple in the another way by using tuple constructor, so you can use the tuple constructor also. And here you can enter the values as you want. Like this, we can create the tuple. And this is again, if you run this code, so you can see that second one is also tuple. I used t is same variable for both of this. So this will be considered because this will get overridden by this next tuple. Okay, this is how Python works. Okay, so once we create the tuple, we are supposed to perform the operations. Let's see what kind of operations we perform on the tuple, or how we can access. Since tuple supports indexes, the way we were able to fetch the data, get the data for list, In the same way, if you use the indexer syntax and if you use the index 0 for the first item, it will access the first item only, meaning the value of 1. Let's say if I go and if I say I wanted to access the item of fifth index, so you can access that. This is how you can access the items of tuples. Okay, so now if I go and if I run this code again, so you can see that it is returning me the Brahma, which is at fifth index. Okay, this is how we can access the tuple items. Now, even the way we can slice the list in the similar way, we can slice the tuples also. It supports both the negative and positive indexes. Okay, so positive indexes meaning indexes starting with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it will keep increasing until the last item. And if you want to go in the reverse direction, then you are supposed to use the negative indexes like -1, -2. So last item will have index as a -1. Second last item will have -2. Okay, so don't consider that last item will have index of 0. Okay, so if you say -1, even you will be able to get the last item. Okay, if I go and if I execute the code again, you can see that it is returning me the webcam, okay, which is the very last item of this tuple. Okay, now if I wanted to slice the data, how we can slice the data? So we can slice the data by specifying the 3 parameters. You are supposed to specify starting index, then end index, and then step. Okay, this is what the syntax you are supposed to follow. So now I will say my slicing should start with the third index, then it should go until the 7th index. Okay, if index is not there, okay, what will happen? We will see that part also. And by default step is 1. If you write like this also, even that is going to work. But let's say this is 5th index, this is 6th, we don't have 7th index, but that is fine. Okay, because Python is not going to consider the upper bound. It will always ignore the upper bound. And if I run this, you will be able to get this tuple. Okay, once we slice the data, once we try to slice the multiple items, it will return again the same data structure like tuple. If we slice the tuple, we will get the data in the form of tuple only. If we slice the data from the list, you will get the data in the form of list only. Okay, so this is how it is going to work. Okay, let's say if you want to reverse the tuple, so you are supposed to change the direction. And how to change the direction? By specifying step is equal to -1. So this will start with the last item and it will go in the reverse direction and it will return the reversed tuple. Okay, so now you can see that this is in the reverse order. So there are methods also. The reverse methods is there, you can use, but again we will see other what and all other methods are there. Even sort method is there, we can use to sort the data. Okay, so slicing works in this way. Okay, if you want to slice the data, that should say Brahma first and then webcam. Okay, so if you use this negative index, meaning the steps which are negative, so it will be in the reverse direction. Like if I say -1, okay, from -1 to -3 I would like to slice. Okay, so if you want to go from -1 to -3, your step should be negative, right? And in this way, if I try to slice the data, it will give me data correctly what I want, but I want Brahma first and I want webcam last. Okay, so it's completely up to you, meaning I don't want to change the direction. And if you don't want to change the direction, how you will go? So obviously you are supposed to write like this. Okay, if you specify -1, sorry, if you specify -2, and here what to specify? If you specify -1 and this step will be 1, okay, direction will remain same, meaning left to right. Now that is not a problem. Okay, so how this is going to work, let's understand. If your step is positive, it will slice the data in this direction. If your step is negative, it will slice the data in reverse direction. Okay, so now my step is positive. I am and the slicing started at -2, meaning -2 index. So that will slice the first item called Brahma 2. But Python by default ignore the upper bound. So in this case, even though the number is lesser, but upper bound remains same, right? So that will be last. And if it is going to ignore the -1, then it will only return the one name. Okay. So if I go and if I try to run this code, okay, you can see that this is returning me a tuple with only one item. Tuple with only one item, but I want two, right? What I want is I want two. So let's not specify anything here. Okay, and now if you run this, you will get last two items. Okay, so this is how you need to build the logic to slice. You need to think over it, and then you will be, once you try different scenarios, you will get a better idea even how to slice the data in either reverse direction or in either forward direction. Okay. Now once you are able to slice the tuple, okay, now we will see how to modify the tuple. Since there is no way, tuple is immutable, so we cannot modify it. We will not be able to add the items. We will not able will Once this tuple is created, you will not be able to add new item to the tuple. Okay, that is not valuable. Okay, then even if you try to update the tuple, that is even not possible. If you try to remove the items from the tuple, even that is not possible. Then how to do this? Okay, so to perform that kind of operation, to modify the tuples, you need to convert this tuple into the list. So if I say L is equal to, and by using list constructor, so there is a function called list. You need to call that function directly. So if I say list, and if I pass the tuple to this list, now if you check the data types, I'm going to print the data type of T, which is tuple, and let's see what will be the data type after converting into list or by passing the tuple into the list constructor method. Okay, so here you can see that it will convert the tuple into list, and then you will be able to perform the modification operation. Once your modification is done, you can convert that data back to the tuple. Okay, this is how the workaround to modify the tuple. Okay. Now there is something called packing and unpacking of tuple. Okay, so let's see what is packing, what is unpacking. Okay, so if you write like this, if you enter the values separated by the comma on the single line, okay, like this, so Python will automatically consider this as a tuple. And if I go and if I say print type of T, print type of T, so here you can see that it is returning class tuple. So meaning, even if I try to print the T, you will get the data in the tuple form, right? So here it is your data. This is what nothing but packing. If you put the values like this, so Python will automatically pack them. Okay, so packing of tuple. Okay, once you pack the data, once you created a tuple and you may want to unpack the data. Okay, so what you can do, you can create these so many variables A, B, C, D, E is equal to T, right? And now if you go around and if I say print is equal to a comma b. Okay, not comma and all. I would like to use. Okay, instead of this, I will print a and e. I'm going to print. Okay, so the way we have packed a tuple in the similar order, it will unpack the tuple, and this is what nothing but unpacking of tuple. Okay, fine. So what it is going to do? So first item will be assigned to the first variable, second item will be assigned to the second variable, third item will be assigned to the third variable. Like this, it will keep assigning. So what you need to make sure that whatever the number of values you have in the tuple, packed tuple, so many variables you need to create to unpack the tuple. And now here, if we try to print a and e, so it will return 1 and 5. So I will go and I will run this code. You can see that it is returning 1, meaning it is printing 1 and 5. So this is how tuples can be unpacked. Okay. So now tuple operations, what and all different types of operations we can perform on the tuple. So we cannot modify the existing tuple. Even that is fine. But we can join the tuple with the help of plus operator. So let's say you may have T1, T2, two tuples. Okay, this is what the one tuple I have. I will create the one more as a T1, and let's say 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Any values are, any type of values are fine. And if I say T plus T1, okay, and if I go and save this into the T2, what it is going to do? Obviously, if I print T2, so it will return the combined tuple. Okay, now the question comes in mind that, okay, if we want to be able to modify the existing tuple, how this concatenation works, right? So here we are not going to modify the existing tuple like T and T1. Instead of that, okay, by using this plus operator, what we are going to do is we are going to create the new tuple, and considering the items from both two different or two or more than two tuples you can add. Okay, so this is how we can, meaning this operation works. This is not a modification, this is just combining the data into the now new tuple. Okay, so this is how concatenation works. Even we don't have any other method to perform the operation on the tuple, because we will not be able to perform any kind of operation on that. Okay, if you want to find the number of items in a tuple, so you can use the len method. Len stands for length, and if you use the length, and if I run this, so you will get how many number of items are there in the tuple. Then if you want to find out the occurrence of value in a tuple, how any value, if you want to search how many times that value exists or that value is getting repeated, so you can use the count method. And if I pass the 2, and here I will say to okay, like this I will write. So 4 times I have. Okay, now if I go and if I try to run this, this should return me 4, and yes, it is returning me a 4. Okay. The index method returns the specified index of specified element, meaning if you want to find if any element at what position it is sitting in the tuple. So what you can do, you can use the index method, and here you can pass the value. If I say 10, so you will get at what position it is in the tuple. So it is sitting at 9th index. Now, if you want to repeat, if you want to multiply the tuple, you will be able to do that. Okay, we cannot add new items, that is fine, but if you want to multiply, you can multiply that tuple. Okay, if I say try into, meaning t into 2, so I'm going to multiply this tuple with 2, and if I try to print the t2, T2 is again another tuple which is multiplied. So here you can see that I'm getting the data 2 times, meaning I multiplied, meaning this is how we can multiply. Okay, so it is not going to update the data, it is not going to multiply the values of tuple. Okay, instead of that, so many times it will return the values of tuple back to back, separated by comma. Okay, so this is how, if I say 3 times, 10 times, however you want to use, whatever the number is in your favor, you can use that. So many times it will return the tuple again and again as a single tuple. Okay, this is how the tuple multiplication is going to work. Okay. And very last item of tuple, that how to loop. Obviously, the way we use list to store the data or tabular data, similarly we can use tuples also. Okay, but if you don't want to meaning whenever you wanted to make sure that your data should not get modified by anyways, you can use the tuples there instead of list. Okay, so now even whenever you read the data from database table, or whenever you read the data from Excel file table, so all the rows will be in a tuple, Okay, so now here I'm going to apply the loop. You can use for I in T. This is very simple, and for loop is advanced loop. So if I say print, so we know that it will extract one by one items of tuple. So it will return me like this. Okay. And if you want to perform any operation on this side, so you can perform. If you wants to multiply this each of the item of tuple, so like this, here you can do that with the help of I. But yes, so if you multiply this T with directly T with the any number, that will repeat the tuple. It is not going to multiply the items. If you want to multiply the items, you are supposed to use this. Okay. Then let's say you may want to use the while loop by any reason. So obviously what you need to use the length parameter. So here, as we are very much familiar with the indexes always start with the 0, and it is always lesser than, okay, you need to remember this is index, last index is always lesser than length. So we can use that to give the conditions. So if I say while I is equal to 0, okay, this is what my variable. I will say while I is less than length of T. Okay, this is what my condition. And here I can go and I can write print. But the issue is here, I is used for the index, not for the value. Okay, in for loop, we use I for values. Here we are not using for values. So here we will use I for indexes. And then if you want to access the items, how you access the items. So tuple name followed by index in the square brackets, the same syntax we are going to follow here. Okay, and even this will give the same output the way it is giving. Okay, but the problem is what we have not incremented, meaning our index is remain sitting at 1. Our index is not getting increased. It's not jumping on the next item. That's why I'm getting the 11111 printed on my screen. So whenever we use this kind of loop, while loop, we supposed to go and increase the value of index, and now this will return us appropriate data. Okay, so this is returning me multiplied tuple. Here the numbers as it is, right? So this is how while loop we can use in even if you want to get the fixed items of these tuples, number of items from this tuple, so you can use range parameter to give the, instead of this you can use the range parameter also. Okay, but with meaning if you want to use the indexes here with for loop, so we can go and we can use the range parameter, because we are supposed to specify. Let's see how we can use the range also here. Okay, so if I say for I in a range of, and here your indexes start with 0, this is what you are starting number or lower bound for the range function, then you can go and you can simply use the length parameter to get the number of items. So obviously I will use the length of t, and this is going to return me the number of items in a tuple. And obviously range parameter, how it is going to work. So range function, it will start the loop, meaning returning the value of 0. Okay, and it will keep increasing that value one by one until we reach to this number, whatever the number of values are there in tuple. Okay, and then if you want to get the data, okay, again meaning this here also we are using I for the indexes, not for the value. If we use loops in this way, if we are trying to loop the data directly on the tuples instead of using range function, or instead of using the indexes, we can say, so then we can use I for the value. But if you are using range function or while loop, or let's say length parameter to get the number of items, so in that case you are supposed to follow this syntax. Again, this will return the same data the way while loop return us. Okay, if I go and if I run this code again, you can see that this is the output of while loop, this is the output of, okay, so many parameters it has returned, but here I passed the 0 instead of this. I supposed to pass 1. That's what my mistake. Okay, then fine. So here 1 to 5 is coming from the while loop. Here 1 to 5 is coming from the last for loop, which is we used with the range function. So range function is again kind of iterator. Okay, it will go to that specific. Even if you want to jump, okay, if you want to get the alternate items, you can use this. Okay, and if I specify 2 as a step, so it will skip one parameter. Okay, meaning it will skip the 1 items, and here it is returning 1, 3, 5, 2 and 4 is skipped by this, because we specified step as a 2. So this is just a step for index. So after the 0 index, it is going to return the second index, and then after the second index it is going to return the fourth index. So first index and third index will be skipped. Okay, so this is how we can use the loops. If you have a data, or if you have a nested tuple, so you can use the nested loop also. Okay, let's consider this is what my first tuple, and if I create one more tuple, okay, like this 7, 8, 9 and 10, again I'm going to create the one more tuple 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So this is what my nested tuple. Okay, so even we can write like this. Okay, we can surround this as a tuple. See, this is going to work how. So now if I use only for loop, if I say for I in a t, and if I try to print this, okay, so let's see what output you will get. So you will get the tuples, internal tuples, okay, not external. Okay, so each tuple is getting printed. But if you want to if you want to reach to these tuples items, okay, meaning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 values of these tuples, so you are supposed to use the one more loop, because I contains the inner tuple. Okay, and again we have seen that how we used single loop. So here I will say for j in I. So here inner tuple will come, and j will go to this each of the item, and then it will meaning j will slice out, or j will reach to the items of internal tuple. Okay, so however you wanted to consider, but yes, if you have a nested tuple, you are supposed to go and use the nested loop to perform something with the help of loops. Whenever you wanted to use the, or you wanted to perform the operation on this data. So this is how tuples are going to work in Python, and that's all about the tuples in Python. Okay, so I hope you like the content of this video. Please do not forget to subscribe the webchamp, and do not forget to share this video who is interested to learn the Python. Thank you so much for watching the video. Have a nice day.